just like throwing something in the game and see what it
Knock over a
does.
cup.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, exactly. So
Nice.
I think a big part of the job is then edit those sound and process them and use plugging and different tools like you
Okay.
were mentioning, where they can be turned into something else.
Okay.
The way they sound.
Nice.
And so that's also a really fun part of the process. Obviously, with more and more experience, you always know where, like, okay, I want to process this type of sound in this type of way, so I need to use that plugin,
Okay.
that type of thing. Um, although I can guarantee you that there is always, and there will always be in this field, an element of surprise.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh, I tried this plugin like on this sound, and I expected quite a different result. Like this time, that was deceiving, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you come up with things that you didn't even expect, right?
Okay.
Um, so it's definitely an inspiring process that goes both ways. Like my inspiration creates something, but the something that got created can also inspire me back.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Sir Goodmood just asked, why does a robot need a bandage? Like, I have never known why. I just saw it. I was like, crikey, HK does have a bandage.
That's a great question.
That is a
actually.
great. We'll save that for
Yeah.
somebody else. What a good question. So switching gears a little bit, let's talk
Yeah.
about voice work.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people, they have dreams and aspirations of becoming voice actors, and they think they have a quirky voice, and I'm sure you deal with a lot of voice actors as well on a daily basis. What is the whole entire? I don't want to sit you here for like 4 hours, but what is a couple of voice actors that you worked with? What's the process? I know Gigantic is a little unique because I know for a fact Trip is actually Mo Lexi as far as voice
Trip
acting.
is Lexi. So one thing I should mention on Gigantic is that so the first thing when you do VO, especially for a game like ours, we wanted to figure out what type of actions trigger VO, right? Are
Yeah.
supposed to trigger VO. So we did like a big first pass that involved mostly people in the studio, so internal employees, and so obviously we all know who is who
Yeah.
in the game. Everyone knows that Trip is it's
Yeah.
Lex's voice. But yeah, we did, a first pass with all our characters, and now we are really in the process with actually redoing the final VO with
Okay.
all the real actors.
Awesome.
So there is still some work that needs to be done on that regard.
Okay.
But I can certainly say that in the past, I've been in a few unusual situations when it comes to VO.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember this one time, obviously without sharing like what project or
Okay, yeah.
what name, obviously. But I remember this one time. It was actually for a movie.
Okay.
I remember this one time where there was this movie, and the cast was actually there were some important actors in this movie, but the actress.
Oh, I'm dying to know who this is too.
So she was also, I think she had a big, for some reason, a big decision power over
Okay.
things in this movie. She wasn't just the actress.
Yeah.
And so she really wanted to not only be the actress, but also be the singer of the soundtrack when you hear the song in the background, okay?
Okay.
So there is a section of this movie where she dances in the living room with kind of like a big actor too.
Yeah.
And so she dances, and there is the song like in the background, just like in many movies. And she wanted to be the singer of that song.
Okay.
Which is very unusual, right? Because like
You're
an actress,
dancing. What are you doing? You're not supposed to be singing right
yeah,
now.
Yeah, right. And also you're an actress, right? You're not a singer. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I think this is fine because I'm not sharing name. Like this is okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Oh, you're
because it's
completely
quite a
100%
funny
fine with me.
story,
Yeah.
So I was contacted because basically for exactly this task to try to make it sound like a singer.
Yeah.
Like she didn't really sound like a singer. So I was like, yeah, sure, we can do that. There are techniques, there are tools,
Yeah.
we can totally make that happen. And the guy who I know, like the guy who brought me into this, into
Yeah.
this gig, basically, the guy that got in touch with me was like, well, look, Matteo, like it's not just like a little tweaking. There's gonna be a lot of fixing here. I was like, oh, you're just being too pessimistic. Like this is way too, like you're being too negative.
Yeah.
So we went to the studio, and I remember like the sounds that was coming out was basically it was like old broken pipes with rain coming down on them. Like yes.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
the.
yeah, it was like that. Like, okay, so this is more challenging than what I expected to be in this game. Yeah. So,
Oh man.
and definitely like fixing voice stuff like that. It's stuff that can be done,
Yeah.
but it's also very very time consuming. It takes a lot of time to do that type of stuff
I
because
gotcha.
voice we're very sensitive to that stuff.
Yeah.
So you can immediately tell when it sounds artificial. But yeah, so I worked on it, and I love the way it ended. Here's the end of the story. The end of the story is that we delivered this track back, and there was guitars, there was other stuff in the song,
Yeah.
and we delivered the track back to the movie producer,
Mhm.
right? And his comment was, "Oh, I didn't know that she was a singer too." It's like, okay, I guess we did a good job. Yeah, that was the end of the stuff.
Well, there you go. For
Yeah.
everybody at Twitch TV, apparently actors could be singers with a little help from the channel.
Exactly.
Nice, that's great. You don't
Yeah.
those are the kind of stories you don't get in the industry and everybody
Yeah.
tells. Awesome, 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 awesome. Well, if you can, for aspiring voice actors out
Yeah.
there, is there any help you can give them? Like any advice, any to get into video game voiceovers? What would you suggest?
Huh. I think one big thing is that just like any other task, and these apply to voice, apply to singer, applies to musician. When you get really serious about doing something, you start just like you should focusing on the technique and um, like being really good at what you do, which is great. But sometimes you also forget about the basic thing, which is like trying to communicate something, right? So sometimes you get stuck on the right technique on and again, this applies to, in my opinion, to every art, but
Yeah.
voiceover a lot. So trying to capture the right personality still should be the most important thing, right?
Okay.
Um, so even if you have to do weird thing with your voice, and at the end of the day you make it work, you sound like what you really should be sounding, even if you break some of those rules that you've learned during your voice training and everything, that's okay.
Okay.
The thing is that I think as humans, once we learn through rules to get better, it's hard for us to break those rules.
Awesome.
And we should be able to do that if it's for a greater cause.
Cool,
You know?
cool. It's funny. Arnold Schwarzenegger once said,
Yeah.
"To get to the top of the mountain, you're gonna have to break a couple of rules," and that definitely just echoed that statement. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, totally.
Awesome. Cool. 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 Well, I mean, so moving forward on that second pass of the voiceovers, are you going to be outsourcing a lot of that voiceover? Are you going to be hiring? Do you have certain people in your head? You don't have to spoil anything if you don't want to.
Yeah,
but,
definitely. We are, the casting process is, we're looking for, we are currently in that process basically. And we have a clear idea of each personality, like for in a game, what we're going for, and, we're getting slides audition and stuff.
Cool.
And yeah, so it's gonna be, I don't want to share too much, but
Yeah.
there is gonna be a lot to come, basically. Yeah. in that
Awesome,
regard. Yeah.
awesome. Just for my curiosity's sake, who voiced the Naga and the Griffin? Are they the
Okay.
same person? Who did that one?
So yeah, again, before I say that, I wanna mention again that that's that VO is supposed to be replaced, right?
Yeah.
With final VO.
Yeah.
That was important to figure out the script and the hooks we wanted. But yes, I can share with you that. So the Griffin is actually Devin, our concept artist.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
And the Naga is Ted, our 3D artist.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Awesome. Awesome. It's so cool to see. Like now, hopefully when I get to meet him, like yes, you're the Griffin, you're the Naga. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's a great.
yeah.
That's great.
I think one of the most fun things too about the VO with it is that just like we said, Trip was done by Lexi, but then when we do our alpha testing, we're all on Mumble. So obviously Lexi is talking on Mumble,
Yeah.
but some people during the match play Trip,
Yeah.
and Trip is talking in the game,
Yeah.
and they have the same voice. Like Lexi's talking, Trip is talking, and they all sound like Lexi, so people get confused, right? So it's kind of hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I gotcha. What's your favorite thing about Gigantic?
Oh God, I need to choose one only.
You can only choose one.
Oh wow.
Then David Reed is gonna just put that only one thing, and then that's the end of Gigantic. No.
I can. I need to choose two at least.
Okay,
I
two.
can,
I'll give you
because
two, my
there
friend.
are two I can choose.
Okay,
between
I'm
these
giving
two.
you two.
Yeah, two. So one is that, and I'm gonna say it sounds obvious, but to me it's the most important thing about any game. It's fun, and
Okay.
I mean it like really fun.
It does.
And I think there are ton of games out there, even games that I worked on, that they focus so much on other things. And this is kind of the same talk I just did about like the VO and techniques, right? They
Yeah.
focus so much about on other aspect. And it's funny that I say that because I do audio, right?
Yeah.
But they focus so much on other aspect, they forget that the game's supposed to be fun.
Mhm.
Like, oh, yeah, it looks great, it sounds amazing, and this, and then you play, it's like, yeah, it looks great, and then people just walk away and don't play it, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to have. It's kind of like, just to make a metaphor, you don't want to have like an amazing sport car with a really
No
bad
engine.
engine.
Yeah,
with
no
engine.
engine.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
placeholder. It's a great.
So
Yeah.
so I think the fact that it's fun is the engine,
Yeah.
right? And I think our game, like to use the metaphor, is like a great, like we have a great design.
Yeah.
It's really fun. So that's one thing that I could not mention. I had to mention it.
Yeah.
And I'm super proud of that. The fact that we have something really special and fun. The other thing is charm. Every character represents something and is a personality, and people resonate with different characters for different reasons.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that. You're actually, I think most of the time, people choose one character over another because they actually actively resonated with that character.
Yeah.
They feel connected,
Mhm.
and it's that charm, that personality. It doesn't just look cool. It
Yeah.
look, there is it's communicating something.
Yeah, having a developer
know?
say that is definitely something. I know a lot of people out there in Twitch TV chat. They want to have that charm. They want to have that connection. They want to know that personality.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I like that. I like that
so
a lot.
these two things, it's kind of like they're both so important. I could not mention one of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. All right, guys, we're gonna open up to questions about chat. To chat. So give me your questions, guys. What do you want to ask Mr. Emo Mateo? What do you want to know? Keeping the conversation flowing. Nice. I agree. It's fun because when I'm playing Gigantic, and there's just so many, the grass swooshing back and forth. In a setting like this, everybody's like screaming at each other, yelling at each other, and for those out there on Twitch, we don't have the best audio setup, so being able to listen to like the breathing of the characters, being able to listen to the splashes,
Yeah.
it's so great. And I'm not worshiping you, but I do have to say, guys, I've experienced a lot of in-depth audio from other different games, and I'm not overly praising this, but it's so good. It really is, guys. When you get to sit down and have a moment to actually just listen to the splashes, listen to the whooshing of the grass, it's just absolutely amazing. So what kind of inspiration do you get for the soundscape of Gigantic?
I guess it really, it depends on what I'm doing sound for. Meaning, like, is it a character, is it environment, or if it's a character, the inspiration comes a lot from other department. And that's why I like that type of interaction.
Yeah, like art.
So I look at concept, I look at the model, I play it a lot in game. I look at the animations, and I'm trying to be part of those design discussion where the designers talk about what they're trying to communicate, and the artists too, obviously. So
Gotcha.
for characters, a lot of the inspiration is from what other departments try to accomplish, in other words, because we're all in the same, we're all doing the same thing here. For environment, I particularly like doing audio for environment. It to me,
You like Smashing Pumpkins, I guess.
yeah, I like Smashing Pumpkins. Yeah, there. Oftentimes, I think details are what make a difference. Details are oftentimes the things that make you believe in an illusion or not, right?
Okay.
I mean, the game, movie, any form of entertainment, you're supposed to transfer your mind into something and believe in it for those 10 or 20 minutes or half an hour, whatever you're playing, right?
Yeah.
So the moment something strange happens, something that's not consistent with everything else happens, you're kind of like that illusion breaks. Now you're outside.
Yeah.
You're not inside anymore. Like, you're not inside the game. You're outside. So you're not enjoying it as much as anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I think that characters obviously are a huge part of it, but also environment, right?
Yeah.
The fact that there is realistic wind in different spots of the map. There are different types of wind.
Nice. So the
and
fact that you use
times
different
and
kind of winds
Yeah.
depending on, that's cool. Awesome. I didn't
Depend,
know that.
different kinds of wind depending how enclosed or open a specific area
Awesome.
is.
That's
right?
really in depth. I didn't know
Or
that.
if it's a cave,
Cool.
So, and that's, just like you would experience in real life, right? So
Yeah.
all those things, I think they contribute to make sure that the experience is very smooth.
Yeah.
And then I don't expect players to call out that wind sound in the corner of the map. They
Yeah.
probably won't. But the fact that they feel natural about it when they walk around that area,
Yeah.
it makes me think that we did the right job.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. 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 So a really good question here, and I really, really, really like this question actually. So in other games, there has been a conversation of dialogue. Let's say Taito runs into a trip on the battlefield. Can you envision a world where maybe they talk about dialogue back and forth a little bit? Maybe like one-off dialogue, maybe some starting dialogue. Do you think it's out of the realm of possibility for the characters to break that wall of talking to each other in game?
That's an interesting question. So I think we need to keep one thing in mind that we always keep in mind when we do content for our game, which is the pace of the game.
Okay.
The game is fast, right? So whenever you have something in game, and let me also mention something. Let's remember that audio, just like animation, music, those are arts that happen over time, right? You have time on the x-axis, right? Differently from like a painting that you look and you're enjoying all at the same time.
Yeah.
So if you have a line of VO, the line is going to happen over a certain amount of time. So what could happen in a game is that maybe Trip is saying something to Tito, but Tito is already fighting against someone else, right?
Okay.
Because if that line lasts for more than a quarter of a second or half a second, then with the pace of our game, in that half a second, maybe Tito is gone. Right?
Yeah.
So we could. I think the key is to try to keep those lines short.
Okay.
So that again we don't break that illusion. Because if something like that happened, where one character said something and the other one was already far away, that's one of those things that break the illusion. Right?
Yeah.
Like that would never happen in real. That's kind of unnatural.
Yeah.
Like psychologically speaking, it's unnatural.
However, a Trip maybe killing Taito and Taito being on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. And we do have hooks for when you get a kill.
That's true.
Yeah,
I know Gnosis goes,
yeah.
another kill!
Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I love that. That's one
and
of my
Trip
favorites.
says like something like, that was easy.
Yeah. Nice. How cool. I mean, that's honest. And it's funny because questions. A lot of times people want to hear like yes, and the fact that you have reasons why no, and that's just to help. Like, there's a reason, guys, that you make these sound, and you're the audio director, and you're the people. You have reasons why, and that makes a lot of sense. It does. A lot of people don't think about that. Like as Taito flies away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You just won't hear that. Another great question is, what kind of music do you like? What is?
Oh wow, yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I guess it's easier for me to say what kind of music I don't like, because over the course of my life, I've listened to so many different styles, and it kind of also went with different phases of my life. When I was a teenager, I was really into hard rock and heavy metal, and then I guess one thing. So in recent years, I've been a lot into orchestral music and electronic music, which is something that you wouldn't necessarily think at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But I love listening and creating both of these things.
Okay.
And I think you can really tell by the way. That's one of my biggest influence, right? If you listen to the last trailer, there is definitely orchestra, but there are synthesizer, there are other aspects that are electronic. So it's very natural for me to go in that direction and try to combine those things together.
Okay.
Another huge influence that I have.
Somebody's in chat. Electronic orchestra music, please. Coming soon from Mateo. Nice. What I want to hear.
So another huge influence, and this is gonna make it sound even more weird, is that there was a time in my life where I listened, and in a way I still do, listen to a lot of progressive rock.
Okay.
So a lot of odd time signature, that goes from King Crimson to an old school Genesis to some Dream Theater on Prayer and Salvation, and so all this music, what it has in common is like odd time signature.
Okay.
So odd time signature you can really count in 4. It's not just 4 beats in a bar. It's more than, it's like a 7/4 or a 5/4 or a 3/4, and I have the tendency to write this odd time signature. That might also have to do with the fact that I'm a drummer.
Okay.
So there is an orchestral component, electronic component, and they play odd time signature, which you usually hear in progressive rock.
Nice.
So that's, I think, the weird combination. Yeah.
All right, well, that's
yeah.
your style, and I like it. I can
Yeah.
dig it. I know a lot of people have, like, when they get to hear the audio of a certain thing called alpha, and and people get to sit there, and they're on that lobby screen, and they get to sit here, and they get to hear the trailer music in the background. People are just like, this is really good. I want this on a CD, and I really want it on a CD. And it has its own unique feeling. It's almost a little bit oriental to it,
Yeah.
but also I could definitely see it. It looks great. I'm excited for everybody out there in chat to be able to
Also,
listen to that.
another thing I want to mention in that regard is that oftentimes, our industry and other industry, they lead us to think that music and sound design should be two different things. I don't. I mean, they are by default, but I don't think that they should be taught separately.
Okay.
Meaning that, I mean, ultimately you've got the same experience there. Like, you're playing the game, right?
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that the sound effects work well with the music.
Yeah.
The fact that in most games those two things are taken care of by different departments,
Yeah.
if they don't connect, if they don't interact, sometimes you end up with a situation where you've got four on the floor, like a super strong techno bass drum, and then maybe you've got a game like Black Ops 2 with ton of explosions,
Yeah.
and you can tell, was that a bass drum or was that explosion? Like, what did I just hear?
Did somebody drop the bass or somebody
Yeah.
blow a bomb? Nice.
So you want to make sure that those two feels like they complement each other
Yeah.
rather than clash. And another way of doing it is to actually take sound effects, and I actually do this a lot. I take sound effects that maybe I even in other situations use in game, and I process them and actually play them on the keyboard.
Okay.
So I can use them to make music, right?
Gotcha.
So that way you still have that timbre, but it's used musically and with chord progressions.
Okay.
So it really feels tight. It feels like the two, they complement each other.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Keep the questions coming, guys, in chat. People talking a little bit about music. What do you? Okay, if you had to make a character, what of M.O. Mateo in the game, and what would your character be like? Would he use? Would he have? Are you opposed to the idea of having a musical character? Maybe a bard?
Not at all.